to the 65. I'm Dorian.
And I'm Phoenicia.
And yes, you are. And our special guest, a club member here at the Union League Club of Chicago for so many years, the one and only Leo Latz. Hey, get a little.
Actually, there's another Leo Latz.
Wait a minute. No.
My son.
Oh.
Who's a member. Yes. So I'm not the one and only.
Well, does he come to a lot of events? Do we know him?
I know him.
You know him.
Yeah, I know him. You've seen him.
So it's he's the next generation
That's
of
right,
Latzes.
he is
So
Leo
I'm
Latz.
Leo Latz the third. He's Leo Latz the fourth.
Oh.
And all four were alive for 1 year
Nice. Did you
on this
picture?
earth. We did.
That's amazing.
Isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
And all a long Chicago tradition
Right.
going back to 1899.
1899.
Latzes have been in Chicago. So
This
anyway,
is amazing. I'm glad that we didn't know about
Old
that.
Town.
Old Town.
317 West Wisconsin, and we were just at the Old Town Art Fair, and we got a picture of my grandson in front of the house that my great-great-grandfather bought, where my grandfather grew up with my grandson, so it would have been his great-great-great-grandfather.
Wow.
Pretty cool
Now,
Chicago
I'm
story.
glad you saved that for us on the opening, because that is some great information.
So that's why
Interesting.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No.
that's
No.
why to say
It's your
that's why to
conversation.
say one and only.
Yeah.
I'm not the one and only.
yeah, well,
You're one of many.
but one of many.
Yes.
And glad to have you with us here.
Glad to be here.
So talk-
Thanks for all the good work you do for the Union League Club of Chicago.
Well,
which
certainly
is part of what we're all about. It's a family here.
It is a family.
You're part of
here.
the family.
That's right, part of the
Yeah.
family, and just the history. So talk about how long have you been a member of the club?
Actually, I'm celebrating an anniversary.
Really?
Yeah.
How many years?
In August, it'll be my 25th anniversary.
Whoa!
So I guess I go to its veteran heritage, it's some new kind of
you're
status,
new.
which is a nice way of saying I'm one of the old guys. Okay.
Nothing wrong
So
with that.
so 25 years. Yep. It's been amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
25 years.
And
Yes.
So, do you have any special moments, favorite moments in all those 25 years?
Coming to the club.
You know, it was always a goal of mine to join the club because my RA in college, who became a lawyer, got his law degree, worked a year in Vista, which is pro bono legal services, and that a year after that, he got his first job offer with Baker McKenzie, which is one of the largest firms in the country, and the first thing he did after he got his signed, sealed, delivered offer is he walked over here and joined the Union League Club. And
Amazing.
so for 20 years, I was his guest. And I would play handball with him. And then we would adjourn to the fourth floor for cigars and Manhattans. So I say that he taught me three of the most important things in life to get you through life is how to play handball, how to properly hold, light, and smoke a cigar, and the joys of Maker's Mark Manhattans.
Who doesn't like
So,
that?
Those are good.
so I was freeloading with him.
How many years was the freeloading?
Let's see, he joined the club in 1979.
79.
Yes.
We weren't born.
Oh, I don't remember.
And
I hear
he's-
my mother
he's
tell
still
me about
He's
that.
still a member,
Okay.
and he joined the club in 79, so I joined the club in 99, so 20 years.
And so why did it take you so long to join? Is it after you?
I couldn't afford it.
Oh,
So is that
Because
when
I-
they're friends with benefits?
Right.
Is that right?
club.
Let's keep it clean.
Club benefits. Club benefits are real.
No, during that time period, I was working at my high school alma mater, not making a whole lot of money, Fenwick High School.
Right. And what high school was that?
Fenwick High School.
Fenwick. Oh, yeah.
Fenwick Friars.
Okay.
And I wasn't making a whole lot of money because it was an all-boys Catholic high school.
Not anymore though.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And in fact, all five of my kids are graduates, including my three daughters.
Wow.
But and then had 5 children in 6 years, and so I couldn't afford it. And so by 1999, it made sense, and I had my own business at that time, and my business was able to absorb the cost. So took the plunge, and
Yeah.
one of the best things I ever did. It was
Good.
great. And so all my kids practically have grown up here. So the club has evolved and changed with me in my life over the years. You know, first as a 40-year-old, you know, young, hard-charging guy who just started his own business with 5 kids, the oldest 6.5
Wow.
at the time, to now I'm an old guy.
No, you're not an old guy.
And I am, and now, you know, adapting with the club as you get older.
Yeah.
And enjoying a lot of things I wasn't even aware of 25 years ago.
It's like what?
The art.
Like how did you know?
I knew she was going to bring that
He
up.
was at the art.
He was a reason.
He was at the art.
The art detective.
The art committee, I was
Yeah.
one of the art detectives.
Yeah.
And
What exactly is that?
Well, let me back up for a minute. If you would have told any of my friends that I'd be, 25 years ago, that I'd be on the art committee, or even any other members here, I would have said to them, marijuana is legal.
Yeah.
Well, marijuana is legal, and I'm on the art committee. So
That's amazing.
While there was a football event going on.
yeah, that was so. And I also said,
Yeah.
if they knew that I was speaking at the art detectives while Kevin Warren, president of the Bears, was across the hallway,
Yeah, we talked about
they
that.
would make me turn in my card, so to speak. No, actually, I think that's a great example. I didn't know that much and didn't care that much about the art. I thought, oh, that's nice. Look at that. Okay. I'm not here for the art. I'm here for athletics.
Yes.
The 20th floor and the 4th floor. Every now and then, with, maybe a staycation with
Yeah.
my wife and kids. But that was the extent of it. And then I took some art docent lessons. And it was like opening up a whole new world, because I love stories.
Yes.
And I realized every piece of art in this building. And then I also didn't know that we had the second best American art collection next to the
Art Institute. That's correct.
And every piece of art has not one story, but lots of stories.
Yes.
Stories about the art, the artist, whether it's a watercolor or, again, I don't know anything about art, but all the various mediums.
Yes.
And that's what Art Detectives is about, is picking a piece of art and assigning different aspects of it to members of the art committee and doing a presentation. And so we picked this year Tunis Ponson. It's behind the front desk, and he was the artist who was commissioned to do paintings of the 1933 Chicago World's Fair.
Amazing.
That's another example. I heard of the 1933. The one everyone hears about is 1893.
The 1893, yep.
White City.
Yep.
Eric Larson,
That's
made
right.
famous. I guess it's going to be made into a movie. But I didn't know that much about 1933. So by being an art detective and doing the research, I learned so much in just the last few months. And I love the history of Chicago. I love being a Chicagoan. And I love the Union League Club and just how all this came together. So I started out my presentation as saying I'm trying to be proof that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So I'm learning some new tricks.
There's always a few new tricks that you can learn.
Well, and I think that's the key to being young.
Yeah.
I think I've done a lot of teaching over the years first at Fenwick, then Dominican University.
Oh, so you went back to
then
teach at your
Northwestern.
old high school?
Well, I was hired to be a fundraiser, but I also taught and coached. I was the assistant freshman basketball coach, and then a theology teacher, a priest, who's teaching freshmen. This is another. This is interesting. He had been a prison chaplain. Wow. But he had never taught 14 and 15-year-old freshmen.
Wow.
And he was having a nervous breakdown. So I had a substitute for him to teach theology. And so I walked in, I slammed the door as hard as I could, almost broke the window in the door, took all the books, threw it on the table. I said, okay, freshman, I got out of here 4 years ago. I know all the tricks. If you try to pull any one of them, you have no idea what's going to happen to you.
This is good.
And no discipline
None.
problems.
But they were probably looking like, oh, wow.
And my brother,
who is this guy?
My younger brother was a freshman, so these were all of his buddies.
That's
And
amazing.
he called me his third parent.
Oh.
Not in a fond way.
Not in a fond way.
No. So anyway, we're good friends now. He lives around the corner. Anyway, that's a whole nother story.
That is amazing. Your life is amazing because you and I, we've had conversations. We side talk. We always come in and always have really good conversations with you. And just some of the other things I think a lot of people don't know. Talk about your Notre Dame years. Are you really the Fighting Irish?
You took so long to ask that question.
I was coming.
He wanted us to start with that.
Yeah, he wanted us to.
Well, one of my favorite jokes is you walk into a room full of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
How will you know in that room of 1,000 people who actually went to Notre Dame? Don't worry, they'll tell you.
Oh.
So.
Oh, is that what it is?
But we're kind of have a reputation for maybe being slight obnoxious. I'm trying not to be obnoxious, but we're all very proud of the Notre Dame heritage.
The Fighting Irish, it is something that, especially if you're in Chicago or if you're anywhere around the country, people know Notre Dame.
They do.
And just the history behind it, you were there when when history was being made, and you were sharing some things with me.
In what way?
Yeah.
Well, let's back up for a minute because I believe there's a lot in common between Notre Dame and the Union League Club of Chicago and my high school alma mater, Fenwick. There's a lot of tradition, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of pride, and there's a lot of impact on making the city, the country, the world a better place, which is part of the mission of the Union League Club and part of the mission of Notre Dame. So I was actually born in the south side of Chicago.
South side?
2940 South Low.
Wow.
From Mayor Daley.
Uh-huh.
And the first words I learned how to say were yay Daley, yay Kennedy, go Fighting Irish, and go White Sox. So that might pretty much sum up my life.
Pretty much.
Family and friends.
Yeah.
But so nobody in my family had ever gone, and I just wanted to go from the minute I could say any words. And that dream came true in 1976.
76.
And it got even better because I had I played basketball at Fenwick, but I also was very involved with sports writing and stats, and did a lot of work in that area. And one of the Fenwick alumni who went on to play for Frank Leahy at Notre Dame said, "Have you ever heard of sports information?" And I said, "What's sports information?" He said, "Well, a good friend of mine, Roger Valdesari, who's a legend in college sports information, was the SID at Notre Dame at the time. He said, I'll call him and see if I can get you in as a student assistant." And he said, "It's the best job on campus because you get paid."
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't want to get paid?
To keep stats and write stories about Notre Dame football and Notre Dame basketball.
Something that you already love doing.
I know, and it was like a dream come true. So my first weekend, actually my first Friday at Notre Dame, I get the job.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it's Payne, which was covering part of my tuition. And I'm on the 50-yard line at Notre Dame Stadium with Roger Valdesari and Digger Phelps, basketball coach.
Oh, my.
And the Pittsburgh Panthers, led by Tony Dorsett, were coming the next day. And they were laughing because they said, "We let the grass grow because Tony can't run on grass."
Oh, no. Is that what everybody was thinking at the time?
Well, he gained 177 yards, I think it was the next day. Wow. Pittsburgh went on to win the national championship. And it got even better because Roger called me in after that tour of Notre Dame Stadium and said, "Okay, I got your assignment." Because besides keeping stats, I kept stats in the press box every game for 4 years. And right before the end of the fourth quarter, he said, "You got a beeline to the visitors' locker room.
Oh, get out.
The post-game visitors' locker room story where you get quotes from the opponents."
Wow.
And most people wanted the Notre Dame locker room, but I thought, this is going to be cool to do the opponent locker room.
Yeah.
It's depending on who won or lost. It could be hostile, but it was way more interesting.
I'm sure.
And you got to see all, the players and the team. So the first game, I'm in front of a group of people, with a group of sports writers from around the country.
Yeah.
And I'm a 17-year-old like Jimmy Olsen,
Getting paid.
cub reporter.
Yep.
It's intimidating.
Yeah. Oh, it was unbelievable. I was scared witless.
And excited.
And
All at the same
so I'm
time.
next to David Israel, who is the columnist for the Washington Post. He had been with the Chicago Tribune. And he said, Tony, do you know that? And in fact, I have the story right here.
Can you bring it out? Because
Yeah,
we
it was
were
called,
looking,
It was called,
and I must say he is so neat.
it was called Inside Irish.
All right,
And
so we can take a
Sports
look
Info
at that.
put it out every Monday morning.
Inside Irish.
And they had a section called Postmortems.
Postmortems.
Yes. And David Israel said, do you know that in 4 years against Notre Dame, you've gained 754 yards?
Wow.
So that's in 4 games. Almost 200 yards a game.
Wow.
And Tony Dorsett, this is
a quote. This is
this
from
is a
Tony
quote.
Dorsett.
I censored the quote because
Oh, I wish you could say
because he said, "Is that all?"
it. Yeah, he did? Really?
And I just put in, "Is that all?" And he had just come out. He had a towel. He was built, but I bet only 5'9", 5'10".
Wow.
And Israel went on and asked, "Why do you always have your best game against Notre Dame?" And he said, "I wanted to go to Notre Dame."
Oh.
That is a
Tom
interesting
Pagna, who
story.
was assistant head coach to Era Parseghian, another legend, told me I was too small to play big-time football.
Get out.
Well, needless to say, Tony went on to be
Yep.
College Football Hall of Fame,
College Football Hall of Famer.
NFL Hall of Fame,
NFL Hall of Famer.
Dallas Cowboys.
That's right.
How many
Yes.
championships?
Yes.
So, anyway, I get to do that every game
That,
for 4 years.
Yeah, that was amazing. And for him to even talk about the grass, but they were talking about the grass growing,
Oh, yeah.
and that really didn't mean anything to Tony.
No.
It's like, okay.
No, but it's part of the myth, part of the lore.
Yeah.
And there's so many stories. And then my sophomore year,
Yeah.
I'm down at Purdue, in the press box, and we had lost one game that year. This is 1977.
77.
Joe Montana
Wait.
was number 3 on the depth chart.
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana
Number 3.
was number 3 on the depth chart.
Wow.
And so
It's amazing.
Gary Forstack was the starting quarterback. He goes down. Rusty Lish goes down. And Dan Devine was forced to put in Joe Montana.
Was forced.
We were down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. The legend of Comeback Joe brought us back.
Yeah.
We didn't lose again. Won the national championship by beating Texas and Earl Campbell
Earl Campbell.
in the Cotton Bowl.
Oh, this is
The
amazing.
end of my sophomore year.
What was Joe like? Joe Montana at Notre Dame. What was that? What was he like?
Well, later his nickname was Joe Cool.
Why? Because he just seemed like he was always cool.
Just quiet,
Nothing,
subdued,
Yeah.
tremendous athlete. Actually, was probably a better basketball player.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
was
that.
recruited to play basketball at North
Joe
Carolina.
Montana.
Yep. He could leap. He could probably touch the top of the backboard. And he played a lot of pickup basketball. His team, there was a tournament in Notre Dame called Bookstore Basketball,
Bookstore basketball.
which I was the commissioner my sophomore year when it appeared in Sports
What did you
Illustrated.
do?
Yeah, I know, right?
By Rick Tellender.
Right.
And
From
his-
the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes,
Rick.
at that time he was with Sports Illustrated.
Oh, I remember those days.
Yes.
And he, Joe Montana, was on the winning team 3 years in a row, or 2 years in a row, 2 out of 3 years. But a nice guy, and just one of the best sports lines I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Joe is cooler than the other side of the pillow.
He's cooler than the other side of the pool.
And so he got
Yeah.
the nickname Joe Cool.
Joe Cool.
So
And-
when you wrote that first article, so you just kept writing after that?
I had every game,
Yeah.
home game, for 4 years.
So stats
and later that
Show
year.
us some of the other, because I
Well,
saw
later,
some.
well, later that year, I got this was another highlight.
Yeah.
We played Alabama,
Yeah.
the Crimson Tide.
The Crimson Tide.
And
Very strong.
Bear Bryant.
Bear
came.
Bryant.
Bear Bryant
What?
came, and Bear Bryant. I grew up not liking Alabama. I don't like them a whole lot now, but
Yeah.
especially not liking Bear Bryant. He was one of the humblest,
Really?
Bear
nicest
Bryant?
gentleman.
Really?
What?
Yes. And he had his houndstooth cap on. And I got to read this to you.
Let me hear it.
He said, I was tremendously proud of the comeback over the team made in the second half, drawled Bryant. I think if Dan Devine was on one side and if I would have been on the other, Alabama would have won. Notre Dame was well coached like all Devine's teams are. Wow. He's praising Notre Dame.
It's remarkable.
He is a class gentleman and an excellent football coach.
And this is Bear Bryant.
Now, when I see the footage of Bear Bryant, I see something else. When they show the old.
Well, I thought the same thing
pictures,
too, but we were in the tunnel, the stairwell leading into the Alabama locker room. And while I was interviewing him, Father Hesberg, our famous president, Father Joyce, the executive VP, came up to congratulate him. And he was so kind. He said, again, Notre Dame is a class institution. And what else did he? Oh, he said, I guess I must be getting worse with age, said Bryant. The first time we met, which was the Sugar Bowl, in 1973.
Amazing.
When we won the national championship under Ara Parseghian, we lost by 1 point. The second time, which was the next year, 13-11, we lost by 2 points. And this time, we lost by 3 points.
Wow.
And Notre Dame is one of the only teams that Bear Bryant never beat.
Isn't that something?
I think it's on his tombstone.
Yeah.
Not it should be.
Had never beat Notre Dame.
No.
And you know, for Bear Bryant not being able to beat Notre Dame, he took that to the grave with him.
So now
Pretty
let's
much.
talk about Notre Dame basketball.
Yeah.
I was courtside for every Notre Dame basketball game for 4 years. And during one of those 4 years, we went to the Final Four.
Right.
So in 77, we win the national championship in football.
That's right.
78, we're in the Final Four.
Yeah.
So I kept stats for basketball, but I also got to write for the basketball program.
Look at you.
And this is my feature on Bill Lambier.
Hold that up. Bill Lambier, for those people that don't know.
Detroit Pistons.
The Detroit
one
Pistons.
Of the
bad boys.
baddest of bad boys.
There it is. It's amazing.
When it was okay to knock people over. In the
Yeah, that's right. That's
Rump
right.
them up a little bit.
And Bill Hanslick,
Wow.
who went on to have a long NBA career with the Denver Nuggets.
Wow.
And that's my
Amazing.
story about Bill Hanslick. And then these were just some of the press passes.
Yeah, this is
I had from the
amazing.
great games.
We were looking at that in Phoenicia. Look at all, and this is, you can see in the frame how remarkable this is. The Alabama game, right?
1976.
Yeah,
And this is USC at the Coliseum.
the Coliseum.
And when I was helping out ABC. So I'm in the tunnel with the Notre Dame football players. And
This is truly amazing.
Keith Jackson was doing the game. And as the game announcer would introduce each player, I would send them out onto the field
Really?
to run in the tunnel. It was really cool.
You know Keith
I got to
Jackson.
travel with the
Yeah.
team. So anyway, that's
So
a
what-
long time ago.
Just a long time
but when
ago.
I think about it, I really have to pinch myself. Like, did this really happen?
Yeah, it
was
did.
like a dream.
It's remarkable, but you have it. You have everything to show it happen, and then those quotes were just amazing to
Glad you
me.
kept that
And I have
stuff.
some of my
Oh
tape.
my goodness, they're amazing.
Because Terry Johnson, the reason I joined this club,
Yeah.
he was in law school, and he would tape his law school classes. So he said, Leo, instead of just taking notes, and you could screw up the quotes, and you're nervous, use my tape recorder. So on one side, you could hear his law school lecture, and on the other side, you hear Bear Bryant and Tony Dorsett.
What?
And it was great because I could bring it back, play the tape, and
And
make
get it
sure I
right.
got the
Yep.
quotes.
We
Correct.
need to take that audio. There's so much you can do with that
Well,
audio
that's I
now.
know.
We're going to
we've been
talk.
talking about.
Yeah, you have to, because that audio
It's in
people
pretty
would love
bad
to
shape.
hear. Oh my goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
we can
They
work
can
it
fix
out.
it.
They can fix it nowadays.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You have so much, and I know we can go on and on and on because you have so many stories. But
Well,
let me ask you a
yeah.
question. You could have been one of the, you talk about journalists, sports, and why did you not stay in that path?
Well, I thought about it, and I came this close. In fact, 44 years ago, last month, I got the call. So one of my other assignments was the Notre Dame Bengal Bouts, which was our intramural boxing program, novice tournament. And in my junior year in 1978, NBC Sports World decided to televise it. And since this was another one of my assignments, Roger Valdesari said, NBC's coming and you're their point person.
Wow.
So I got to hang out with all the NBC
guy's
sports
interesting,
guys.
isn't he? Yeah.
Mike Adamle
Mike Adamle, yes.
was the key guy
Really?
in NBC Sports
Yeah.
World. And I got to show them around campus, set everything up. They'd want to go out afterward. And I'm thinking, I don't know any of the steakhouses in South Bend because I just went to the college. So I said, I'm not sure which are the best restaurants in South Bend. They said, we want to go to where you go. And I said, you don't want to go where I go.
Where is that?
And they said, we want to go where you go.
Okay.
So our hangout was a famous place in South Bend called Lee's Ribs.
Ooh, sounds
And
good.
rib tips with
Uh-huh.
3 flavors of sauce.
No.
Medium, hot, and super hot. And the medium was so hot,
You're sweating.
and SOF meant
Yeah.
sauce on fries.
Oh, I love it.
So you could get a plate of rib tips for a couple bucks,
No.
quarter beers.
Yes.
So they came with me and loved it.
That
And it was a
sounds
big, huge
wonderful.
place. The
Yeah.
place was packed. And I ran into a guy years later and he said, I was there that night. Do you remember what NBC did? And I said, no. They bought rib tips and drinks for the entire place. He said, I owe you. I said, yes, you do.
Yes, that's
What a great
oh.
memory.
So then, my senior year, so this was 2 years doing NBC Sports World, they said, you want to help us with the Final Four? I said,
Do I?
do I want to help you with the Final Four? So
Yeah.
Dick Enberg, Al McGuire, and
Oh, my
Billy
goodness.
Packer were courtside, and I was the runner between courtside and the truck, and who's in the truck? Brian Gumbel.
No. It's
And
amazing.
Enberg, and my favorite was Al McGuire.
Yeah.
Nicest guy. Brian, even though a De La Salle guy,
And
could be,
he was a young guy too
he
at that
was.
time. I'm sure he was. Yeah.
So I'm the runner back and forth, and it was really the greatest sporting event I've ever seen. The Final Four, and it was Iowa, Purdue, Louisville, Doctors of Dunk, and I forget the 4th team. But Saturday of the Final Four, seeing all 4 of those teams and all those 4 universities, all the different colors, the spirit. It was in Indianapolis. It was incredible. In
I
Market
bet.
Square Arena. So after that weekend, 1980, they said, do you want to come and work with us? Is that a trick question? You had me at hello.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And this is in 1980.
this 1980, and they said, we're doing the Olympics this
Oh.
summer, and we need extra help, and will you come and be an assistant on the Olympics? I said, done. I didn't even ask how much.
You didn't
So-
care. This is the Olympics.
I
Yeah.
forget the actual month, but I then got the next call, which is, we're sorry, Leo. Jimmy Carter, who was president at the time, decided to boycott
The
the
Olympics.
Olympics because Russia had invaded Afghanistan.
What history? This is amazing.
So it just shows how,
the.
and it's now like,
Life changing, life altering.
now what am I going to do?
So that had a lot to do with your decision on making. Oh,
Because-
wow.
And really, it forced me, and I'm grateful, even though it was disappointing. And now I decided, do I want my life's work to be following around prima donna athletes,
That's true. When you
Seriously.
look at it like that.
trying to get a story out of them?
Yeah.
And
And they have good
athletes
days
are
and
like
bad days.
athletes are like everybody else.
Yeah, this is
Some
true.
Good guys.
Yep, and some
And
bad
they're
ones.
some of the biggest, you know what,
Oh, I know.
I've ever met in my
Oh,
life,
yeah.
who thinks you're,
Yeah.
and that was 44 years ago. It's
Right.
gotten,
Now.
because they've been pampered since the recruiting starts in 6th grade, and now with NIL and all the other stuff. And I just said, how am I making a difference in the world?
Yeah.
And this is no offense, I love sports writers, I love sports journalism. So it forced me to, examine what am I going to do. And I was a liberal arts major, and the only interviews I could get were with banks and insurance companies. And I didn't want to work for a bank,
Right.
and I didn't want to sell insurance.
Good call.
And I'm like, So, and my Irish mother said, if you don't have a job or you're not in school, I'm kicking you out of the house.
See what I mean? Yeah.
So I'm like, what am I going to do? So what a lot of liberal arts majors back in the day did, when they didn't know what they wanted to do and had an Irish mother, you applied to law school.
Is that right?
So in the middle of that summer, I had my first year course. The only law school I could get into was John Marshall,
John
2
Marshall.
blocks away.
It's right up the street.
And I was all set to go to law school. And then I read 1L by Scott Turow, who's a member of the club. Scott Turow. He spoke here
Yes.
a few months ago. And I said, I don't want to work this hard or read this much. And I don't want to read the law every day. So I said to my best friend, I don't want to go to law school. And he said, well, don't go. And I said, what the heck am I going to do?
Right.
And I had heard a job had opened up at Fenwick in development and fundraising, and I didn't know what that was, but I knew it was something to do with throwing parties.
Yes.
And that was my actual undergraduate major.
Oh.
That's a joke. That's a joke, but
Oh,
in a way it was.
I'm about to say.
Because
Really?
fundraising back then
Yeah.
was what I call the special event of the month club.
That's right.
Galas and
Yep.
auctions,
Yep.
and golf outings and walkathons and phone-a-thons. And I thought I would do it for 2 or 3 years. 44 years later,
And you're
I'm
sti-
still doing fundraising for
It's
nonprofits.
amazing, but
I'm
you're
not doing
good.
special events.
But you're good at it, though.
It's like
something
anything
that you
else.
do. Not everybody
You
can
make
do that,
every
though.
mistake
Yeah.
there is to be made.
Yep.
What is it, the tipping point, Malcolm Gladwell?
Yeah.
You spend 10,000 hours doing something, you can become good at it.
Yeah.
And you learn more from your mistakes and failures than
Don't
your
we know
successes.
it? Don't
That's
we know
amazing.
it?
So,
I know, right?
but I did,
Yeah.
truly, I wanted to find a vocation. I say that vocation, which means a calling, that connects making a difference while making a living and having a life. And doing good
Really is.
while you're making money.
Yeah.
And especially if you're trying to be a husband and a dad
And a husband
at the
and a
same
dad.
time.
And
Yeah.
having a good time.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, you are an amazing individual.
Oh.
Well, I kind of, when we started talking, I already knew it. That's why we had to get you on the podcast. But I mean, just hearing some stuff, I'm glad we didn't talk about everything because really, really, really interesting.
Well, thank you.
Conversation today.
But
Thank
I
you.
just want to say, so I just want to ask one final question. You come to the club a lot. I see you at a lot of events. What's the main reason you come to what's the event that you always are going to be present at?
Well, and I saw that in your prep for this. That has changed over time. But I will say that, and this is where I say the club has a lot in common with a place like Notre Dame. And you could take all the football games, you could take all the sports and everything else. The best thing about Notre Dame were the people, the friendships, and the relationships.
I knew it. I knew you were going to go there with it.
Same thing for the Union League Club.
Yep.
You could take the art, you could take this beautiful building, you could take the rendezvous, but the best thing are the people. And the people here are really kindred spirits in terms of all wanting to make a difference. And by joining the club, you're making a difference because as Phil Wicklander, the great former president of the Union League Club would say, we are the only city club in the country with a social mission as part of our charter. Community and country.
That's right.
And through our foundations, the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Engineers Foundation,
The Luminarts,
Luminarts,
yep.
which all members contribute to, or most do, just through your membership, you're making a difference. Now, many members get more involved, they give more of their resources, their time and money, and the difference, the Boys and Girls Clubs had their wine dinner Friday night. It's incredible how that's grown over more than 100 years.
Yes.
And no other club, especially country clubs, it's the feeding and care of members.
Right. Right.
It's all about me, 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 me.
Exactly.
Union League Club is different. Yes, we have some of the creature comforts, which
Right.
is nice.
Right.
But it's more than that. And also, I love part of the friendships are the relationship between members and the professional management here, and all the professionals who work here.
And I think
top to bottom.
so key.
Yeah, it's part of the culture and the charism
Yeah.
of the club.
Really-
So that's why it's hard to say any one event.
That was a good
Because
answer. That's a great
Very
answer.
good. That's a really good answer. Wow. Well, we thank you for taking time out
My
of your
pleasure.
schedule. You're going to come back and see us. We've learned a
Good.
lot today.
Good.
Something, and just really appreciate you stopping by here at the
Great.
65
Thank you.
podcast.
Took us a while to
Thank
get it
you.
Thank you,
going,
Dorian.
but
Thank you.
I know.
Thank you. Great to be with
so
you.
grateful. That was great. Thank
That
you
was
so
fun.
much.
It was great. This is the 65 podcast with yours truly, Dorian.
And Phoenicia.
And we will talk back with you and see you next time.
Great.
Thank you, Leo.
Thank you.
This was
All right.
great.